All right, welcome back to the Jim Acosta Show, and we're looking at this as kind of a special edition of the show. I think we're going to call this Holy Schmidt. It's Friday. Holy Schmidt is back with us. Steve, great to see you. I feel like this is becoming such a huge success. We just got to keep this ball rolling, man.
Let's do it. Always good to be with you, Jim. And no better day to do it than Friday.
No better. Thank God it's Friday.
Thank God.
And I don't know if I should say thank God for the Supreme Court, but maybe thank God for checks and balances because of this tariff decision by the Supreme Court. I think there are a couple of things going on. Of course, Trump never watched Schoolhouse Rock. He doesn't understand how the Constitution works. He is a very simplistic, stupid person. But I think the Supreme Court under John Roberts has discovered that their legacy has been shattered by the immunity decision. And to some extent, they're trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube. What are your thoughts on this case?
Well, John Roberts is the worst Chief Justice in American history since Taney, who is the author of the Dred Scott decision. And I say that as the person who ran John Roberts' confirmation in the Bush White House and sat behind him for those hearings. And we could go and talk about that for an hour about the disgrace of his presiding over the Supreme Court. But what I think we learned today is something important, which is that the Supreme Court is not completely and irrevocably corrupt. It's just profoundly corrupt.
Right.
And so there was no workaround for this. The tariffs, an economic disaster that are wrecking the economy of the country for ordinary people, are a specific congressional authority. So these have been illegal from day one. And the slow reaction to the constitutional breach that these tariffs represented has been responsible for a lot of chaos in the economy in this country and all over the world that has profoundly weakened America's standing, our reputation, and has been at the end of the day, and we'll find out all about this in the years to come. But what this all has been about is Trump's self-enrichment, that behind the tariff door is an epic level of corruption, which is basically you do for Trump and Trump won't slap the tariff on you. And the fact that Democrats, particularly in the form of the leaders, Schumer and Jeffries, have not been screaming at a volume that could be heard from outer space about this issue is a reason why I think the profound divide in the Democratic Party is not ideological, but it's between appeasers and fighting Democrats. And so the appeasement has run its course. The Supreme Court stated the obvious, and a year of chaos economically has been brought to heel by this decision. And Trump is shit out of luck.
He's shit out of luck. Yeah. And look at all the people he's hurt in the process, the farmers, small businesses. And we just don't understand how to untangle this mess, it seems to me. This whole issue of refunds. Do people get a refund now? What about the American consumers who have been footing the bill for this? Do they get a refund? Do we get a check in the mail to help pay for all of this? And this is why this doesn't pass the constitutional muster, because imagine if every president could come in and unilaterally slap tariffs on countries around the world. That's why this doesn't work that way. That's why the Constitution is set up, so the Congress can establish tax policies and the president can decide whether or not he approves or she approves or disapproves. That's the way the Constitution works. But it seems to me that a part of this, and you were talking about this earlier, Steve, that a big part of this is that the Supreme Court under John Roberts unleashed this Frankenstein, and now they don't know how to rein him in. They've tried to, cut him off at the pass when it comes to the Alien Enemies Act and deploying the National Guard and, all these other issues. But John Roberts is responsible for this mess, by and large, it seems to me.
The Roberts Court has profoundly, to use that word again, destabilized our American society. our civilization. Through partisan rulings, we have a corrupt Supreme Court, financially compromised, Alito's misconduct, Clarence Thomas's misconduct, flying around with all these billionaire extremist donors for vacations here, there, and everywhere. The court has lost its reputation. It's lost it. It's lost it for a reason. And now we have Donald Trump's visage looming down at the American people from the Department of Justice, which is a corrupt institution that can't be trusted, filled with corrupt prosecutors who abuse their oaths, abuse the Constitution, abuse the American people in the name of power. And again, every single detail of every despicable act is going to be known, just not later today.
That's right. And I mean, one of the, I think, you know, byproducts of what has been unleashed on the American people is that not only is the president under the mindset that he can just do whatever he wants and act like a dictator, this has created a sort of legion of mini-me's in his cabinet. And so that's why the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, thinks that she and Corey Lewandowski, her special advisor, can fly around the country on this monstrosity of a jet. NBC News has obtained photographs of what this DHS jet looks like on the inside. And look at this. They've got I mean, bingo is right. Yeah. They've got a bedroom in there for, it looks like Austin Powers' shag jet from the 90s.
It is. It's Air Fuck One. The Homeland Security fuck jet. And I'm looking at the seat, and I imagine that the undersecretary, as they call him, Corey, can serve under the secretary in a variety of positions from that chair. Quite a thing. Our taxpayer dollars, while they're holed up in the commandant of the Coast Guard's house, flying around. You know, Corey Lewandowski is a 5-star whack job. It's a whack job, right? We talk about his run-ins with the law, his abuses of women, his tirades, the story about him losing it on the Coast Guard pilot who forgot to bring Kristi Noem's electric blanket from one plane to another. They fired this guy on the tarmac, and then Dumb and Dumber figure out there's no one else there to fly the plane, so he's hired back. You know, it's funny like how fast time goes. We're about the same age, and so the indelible moment, I think, in our lives is that 9/11 attack. And I grew up everywhere. You were any little rise in my North Jersey town that you went up, or really even a speed bump, you could see the Twin Towers. Yeah. And I don't mean to use these words for shock value, but I don't know how to express the point absent the use of the words. But these two fucking imbeciles, and they are imbeciles, are a lethal threat to scores of millions of Americans. This is a serious job. And again, Corey Lewandowski is a special government employee. He has no statutory authority. He has not been confirmed by the Senate. Why is he in the chain of command? You have a Democratic congressman who was interrogating someone from the Homeland Security Department who made the point that if you need something, for example, from FEMA for your flood-stricken district, you have to call Corey. Yeah. Why has this been tolerated by Chuck Schumer, by Hakeem Jeffries? And I hope it will not be for much longer, but there is going to be a Democratic majority. We are going to have elections. The whole fear-mongering that Trump has some power to stop them is nonsense. And it's going to be good for the American people to see Trump's reaction to the Supreme Court decision, because there's nothing he can do about it. The
That's
tariffs,
right.
they're gone. And there's going to be an election, and every detail, every email, every order, every interaction, every contract, all of it is going to be known. Corey
That's right.
Lewandowski is building this giant house up in New Hampshire. Where does Corey's money come from? I'm going to tell you where I think it comes from. Tricia McLaughlin, the departing spokesperson at the Department of Homeland Security's husband, was given a $250 million contract for advertising to recruit white nationalists and fascists for ICE.
Yeah.
15% is the standard commission. So that's about $45 million in fees. And I promise you, those fees flow through the media buyer, and then they're kickbacked, including to Corey Lewandowski and Kristi Noem. And that corruption is going to be fully uncovered. Why did Kristi Noem have thousands of dollars of cash in her purse when it was stolen from a Washington restaurant? Explain to me how Kristi Noem, who lives on a government salary and whose husband, I think, is in crop insurance, is wearing a $50,000 Rolex when she's standing in front of the prisoners in the El Salvadoran concentration camp. We're going to find out the details of every financial transgression and every corrupt act from every one of these people, all of them.
Yeah. No, all of this is going to have to be investigated when the Democrats take control of the House. Committee work has to begin right away. Hearings need to be held. Subpoenas need to be issued. And I think you're right. The Corey Lewandowski, Kristi Noem, Tricia McLaughlin gravy train needs to be investigated and see where the information, follow the money, as we used to say in this country. And you're absolutely right about the Department of Homeland Security. This was a department that was created after 9/11 to keep the homeland safe, to protect us from another terrorist attack like what took place on September 11th. And it just seems to me this all flows back to Trump. He has been unleashed as this unaccountable, out of control dictator. I was thinking about this last night. It seems to me what we need to have happen in this country is we need to lose our virginity when it comes to prosecuting and imprisoning a corrupt and unlawful president. We have not crossed that threshold in this country. It seems that the Supreme Court wanted to avoid that, and that's why we had the immunity decision. But I'm sorry, it is time for this country to act like other countries around the world. The former Prince Andrew just the other day got hauled in by the police in the UK. And we don't have that kind of system in the United States. Bolsonaro, I mean, you name all these countries around the world, they do this, we don't. And I think it's a major problem. And to me, Donald Trump is sort of the prototype for us to lose our virginity when it comes to prosecuting and imprisoning a president. If he's broken the law, he should be held accountable.
What happened to the speedboats in the Southern Caribbean is a crime. And the admiral who ordered the attack will be court-martialed, I hope. The child who is sleeping on a concrete floor being malnourished, that is a crime. Every single person up and down the chain of command, all of them, from top to bottom, must face justice. If we do not do that, then the republic will not survive. We will survive Trump because MAGA's headed for the ash heap of history. What we will not be able to survive is another round of Merrick Garlandism.
Yes.
The out of control nature of these people, the stealing, the grifting, it is beyond the beyond the beyond. Now, I think people get confused by the inability to do something about it in the moment. And some people see indifference. We're going to see a tidal wave, an electoral tidal wave, unlike any that we have seen in our lifetime. You're going to have a Democratic governor in Georgia. You're going to have a Democratic governor in Ohio. You're going to have a Democratic Senate. There's a Senate candidate who's going to be announcing soon in Montana, who is going to beat Steve Daines. First in his class at West Point, a Rhodes Scholar, a Green Beret, an extraordinary young guy. And these people are going to be defeated, and they're going to be held to account. When you have the ICE thug on the roof who shot the priest in the head with the pepper ball, who ordered him up onto the roof? Who told him it was okay to point a weapon at an American citizen, let alone fire that weapon?
That's right.
You see on a daily basis the abuses of these ICE agents, them pointing weapons at innocent Americans, going about their business, harassing people. All of this is not only unconscionable, it is illegal.
Yeah.
And though Trump may pardon, which is his right, there will be an ability to prosecute these folks at a state level. And in the end, we're going to need serious reform in the country. We're going to need to take away the pardon power from an American president. There's going to have to be a golden age of legislation to set things right, because what we thought of as traditions that were de facto law have turned out to be no such thing. And so it's time for the sheriff to write some new laws. So
and the people are the sheriff. I mean, that's just the way it's supposed to work in this country. And I do want to play a little bit of sound from Trump's speech in Georgia, where he was talking about the tariffs, and he's tying all of these things together. And he sounds like a madman dictator who's losing his shit. We should play this and then talk about it.
Tariffs! Can you believe it? It said tariffs. And I got to be before a court. Can you believe it? This is like men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody. I have a new one to add, voter ID. The Democrats don't want to give us voter ID because they want to cheat. The only way they can cheat is if they, look, we can stop them so easy. You know what they say? We don't want voter ID because it's racist. Okay? That's a good one. It's racist, no.
Look at his face. Look at his face. Look how deformed it is. Like how sick he is. He clearly goes through some sundowning each evening. He's 80 years old. He looks to me like he's dying from the bloated cankles, the hand, the makeup. He's incoherent. And at the end, I think it's important for people to understand that no matter what, he could launch a nuclear weapon at California, and 26% of the country is going to support him. That's his floor. He will never have less than 26% support. A few weeks back, I was on. I said, by the time we get to the end of March, he's going to be down about 30% approval, and tracking that, he's about 35 right now.
Yeah,
so
he's heading south.
Collapsed. People who voted for Trump by the scores of millions are saying, I didn't vote for this. Now, more than anything else, I have an instinct to want to yell at those people and proverbially crack them over the head with the frying pan.
Yeah.
That's self-defeating.
Right.
If they think it's not what they voted for, welcome aboard. Vote him out of power.
Yeah.
The rot of these people, derivative from Trump. I'm not naive about what goes on in Washington. And generally, I don't like the media serving as the role as the sex police. But you got a family values congressman, Tony Gonzalez. 6 kids.
Wow.
Right? And this guy so wrecked a young staffer's life. He slept with her, became his mistress. She lit herself on fire.
Yeah.
In her backyard, killed
Horrible.
herself. And
Horrible.
and he wants 2 more years in the Congress. You got this whack job Randy Fine, who put out a quote that if we have to choose between Muslims and dogs, I guess I choose dogs. So this is a sickness,
Yes,
a disease in our society. And by the bushel, we have to get rid of these people, and they're going to be gone come November. When you read the political coverage, a lot of Republican consultants will say, well, we're going to turn the issue to this. We're going to turn it to that. We're going to have a fundraising advantage. There's not a zillion, gazillion, quadrillion, million, billion, zillion dollars that can save these people. Nothing.
No,
right?
That's right.
It's the die is cast, like the Titanic. Yeah. The Titanic hit the iceberg at about 11:30 on April the 14th. There was barely a shudder. And it was at the bottom of the ocean at 2:30 in the morning. It was the last half hour where all the action happened. And by the time you got to the action phase of the sinking, there were no more lifeboats left.
Yeah.
So at the time to have gotten in the lifeboat was quite a while ago. There are no more lifeboats left for any of these people. They're going down, and there's going to be a lot of accountability that's coming, because I think what Democrats have to appreciate is that just as there's zero tolerance for MAGA, there might be even less than zero tolerance for Democrats appeasing MAGA.
That's right.
No more.
They've had enough. And the other thing, Steve, is, you mentioned Tony Gonzalez. His district is the district where the notorious Dilley Detention Center is in Texas. And this has been a litany of one catastrophe after another. And if you look at just the latest headline, I pulled this out of the Miami New Times, I think it was, about a little 9-year-old girl who thought she was going to Disney World.
Yeah.
She was en route to Disney World. They snatch her up. She's been in the Dilley Detention Center for months now.
Yep.
And she has been traumatized by this. The attorneys, the family members say she's traumatized because she thought she and her family, because she wanted to go to Disney World, that they were all going to go to Disney World as a family. And instead, now they're in detention. And this is the same Dilley detention facility where the little 2-year-old baby, or 2-month-old baby, I should say, just the other day was deported, and the baby was in respiratory distress at the Dilley Detention Center. This is a place that is not suitable for kids, and yet we have children locked up there. This is where Liam Ramos from a few weeks ago, the 5-year-old from Minnesota, locked up. And people are sick and tired of this. This is gulag shit, and people are sick of it. And I think you're absolutely right. They're going to flush the toilet because they are disgusted by what they're seeing right now.
I believe you can set me correct if I'm wrong about this. But this is a gulag concentration camp that's run by Core Civic, the private.
I think that's right. Yes, I think that's the company that runs it. Yeah.
Thurgood Marshall Jr. is on the board of that company.
Unreal.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Very soon, the Save
That's
America
what a lot of these companies do. They put people on their boards. Yeah, go ahead.
Very soon, the Save America movement is going to take direct action against those board members and confront them publicly. If you look at that company, you can go look at the leading lights of American business that are on the board of a concentration camp company. And in that facility, there were reports about children being brought into a room, told that they were going to have a Thanksgiving meal, and the food was then taken away from them.
Yep.
And what was served was worm-infested, rotten food. That is
disgusting.
a crime.
Yes, it's
crime.
child abuse.
And I want that crime prosecuted. And I want to see, and I want political leadership to insist on prosecutions of the leaders of these companies, the guards in the room who have abused children. Across this country, we have sadists running these facilities. And, you know, there was nothing that anyone needed to know about Kristi Noem and her unfitness to lead anything beyond that terrible story of her shooting the dog. It is as clear a cut case of animal abuse as anything that you could find. She is an evil, sadistic, barbarous woman in a relationship with a 5-star whack job who sits on top of America's Gulag Archipelago. And we're going to have these facilities in this country. And in our lifetime, you know, when we're driving around with the grandkids someday, right, we're gonna pull over on a cross-country trip, and these are going to all be national monuments, right? These are going to be museums, except they're not going to be in Poland. They're not going to be in Germany. They're going to be in the United States. Concentration camps, warehouses, where people are stuffed into appalling conditions. It's unconstitutional. It's violative of the cruel and unusual punishment prohibitions from the Eighth Amendment. And this has to be confronted at a moral level. It's the indecency, the evil of this has to be confronted.
That's right. It's not who we are as a country. Although when I say that, people will say it's who we are now. No, it is not who we are as a country. We decide who we are as a country, and I think we're all going to decide that is not who we are. The other thing that is driven by all this, Steve, is that Donald Trump sees himself as an unaccountable dictator. And the latest example of that, they put his picture up on the Department of Justice. I'm sure you saw this. There's a giant banner now hanging from the Department of Justice. I think if there's any image that typifies where we are as a country right now, this is it. This is Donald Trump saying to the world, this is my Justice Department. Pam Bondi and the prosecutors at the Justice Department, they're not going to hold me accountable for whatever I did with respect to Jeffrey Epstein and my relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, because this is my Justice Department. They work for me. Completely out of bounds, completely contrary to what the Department of Justice of the United States of America should be all about. And I've been around that building so many times. I can tell you, you know, when you would look up at the Department of Justice, you know, it looks like you are looking up out of something out of a movie, out of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington or something along those lines. These are buildings in downtown Washington that are supposed to inspire you, to make you think good of our republic, of our democracy. And Trump just shits on it by putting his name and his face all over these buildings. I've been describing it as vandalism. He's vandalizing our buildings, our federal buildings.
The Justice Department is going to need to be taken down to the studs. And we've seen how quickly these big law firms folded and how capitulant they are. And so capitulation works both ways. But there's going to be, and there needs to be, a great season of disbarment. We have a collapse of ethics in the country, of legal ethics at the top of the list. And I'm not sure that the Justice Department should remain in that building in the next administration. Maybe that's the new home for the Department of Agriculture. I don't know. Maybe it's a new Smithsonian museum. But the Department of Justice has been defiled, desecrated, and the reality is that you have a lot of credible accusations of child abuse against Donald Trump, child rape, terrible crimes. And those crimes are being covered up from inside that building by Pam Bondi, by Todd Blanche. And when Democrats take the majority, they need to precipitate a tremendous crisis by exercising to the maximum force their constitutional power. There is something called inherent contempt that most of us are unfamiliar with, but inherent contempt gives Congress gives the Congress the constitutional authority to lock up a Pam Bondi in the Congress. When you have a Democratic chairman of the committee and she pulls that bullshit again, that's where she should go, into the basement prison in the Capitol, where they used to throw the people in who violated the inherent contempt provisions.
That's right.
And it's gonna be a time of conflict and force, and it's necessary. Each state legislature, each state in this country is sovereign. Every town has sovereign power. And every democratic institution needs to assert its sovereign power to the maximum to defend American liberty, in my view.
Yeah. Well, and we should tell all our viewers that, Steve, you and I are going to be doing more of these collaborations. We're going to be getting together on State of the Union night. Our friend Miles Taylor is hosting this big event down in Washington. It's going to be great. A lot of people are going to be speaking at this, a lot of big names. And I know you're going to be there, and we're going to be doing our special State of the Union coverage around that as well. But it seems to me, with Trump getting his hands smacked by the Supreme Court like this, he's going to be even more unhinged at the State of the Union. When he's starting to talk about bombing Iran and aliens in almost the same sentence, we're way past windmills and Hannibal Lecter, it seems to me.
The aircraft carrier Gerald Ford has arrived on station in the waters around Iran. I think everyone who's watching should appreciate that Iran is bigger than Alaska. It's 2.5 times the size of Texas. It's a big country. And Donald Trump, president of peace, is about to start another war. There's a new moon over Iran, which means that it is dark in the skies. It's moonless nights. I will be extraordinarily surprised if you and I are together on next Friday that we are not at war with Iran. In fact, I'd be very surprised if when I see you on Tuesday night that combat operations haven't started. And here's the deal.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a single congressional hearing. Maybe I missed something, but I haven't seen anything from Chuck Schumer, nothing from Hakeem Jeffries, not a fucking word from a retired general, a colonel, a lieutenant colonel, a major, a captain, or anybody about this military action. And if there's one thing that we should all be able to look at objectively, it's the fact that it's a lot easier to start a war than to end one.
That's right.
What's the plan? What's the strategy? Why are these kids going to be coming home in boxes? And when we go to war with Iran, there are going to be some of our sons and daughters coming back in boxes draped in flags, and they won't be the Trump kids. They're doing the crypto events at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
They're pocketing billions of dollars. And so this is a moment of great danger. And I literally cannot believe, after the failed wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, we have a battle group assembled off of Iran. That's the biggest since the start of the Iraq war. And it is invisible news on most of the networks. It is not talked about. It's not covered. There's been no debate about it in a free society. It is a fucking abomination.
Yeah.
An abomination.
No question about it. Well, on that note, Steve, we'll be talking next week. We'll reconvene on all of these points. But as always, great to see you, man. Thanks a lot.
Great to see you, Jim. Have a
Holy
great weekend.
Schmidt, it's Friday. Holy
Things
Schmidt,
will be
it's
worse on Monday.
I think, yes, it's going to get worse before it gets better, ladies and
Sure.
gentlemen. But
Sure is.
always appreciate the way you come at it, man. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Steve.
See you, Jim.
All right, good to see you. And, you know, we were talking about Dilley, and I've been talking about Dilley all week. I have to show you one more tweet about what has been going on at the Dilley detention facility in Texas. This is from an attorney who represents some of the detainees there. This is Eric Lee, is an attorney who's been prominently featured in all kinds of news reports on this. He says, I can confirm that ICE Core Civic fed my client, Habiba Solomon, a dirty nail in her breakfast this morning at Dilley. The nail was about the length of a fingernail, covered in black material. Detaining children at Dilley is a threat to their lives. Detaining children at Dilley is a threat to their lives. This is just one attorney for one set of detainees at the Dilley detention camp. And I think the American people, they deserve answers. They deserve to see what's going on behind the scenes at Dilley. What is going on inside this children's prison, this prison for little kids and babies? What are we doing in this country? And meanwhile, the person who is presiding over the Department of Homeland Security has a jet that is basically a private plane with a goddamn bed in it. I mean, we can show that picture again. Kristi Noem has a plane that she's flying around in with a bed in it. Now, NBC is reporting this because there have been lots of questions raised about Kristi Noem's relationship with Corey Lewandowski, who is a special government employee. But this is what NBC says. No expense has been spared. Inside a luxury jet, DHS wants to buy for deportations. And it has a bed in it. Why does Kristi Noem need jets with luxurious beds in it? And even Donald Trump has been asked the question, what is going on with Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski? But to me, the symbolism of this bed, is not about which cabinet secretary is getting bedded here. The person who is getting screwed in all of this is you. The person who's getting screwed in all of this is you, the American taxpayer. You are paying for this. You are paying for Kristi Noem to fly around in basically a private jet that she can use like she's Austin Powers in one of those Austin Powers movies. But it's you, the American taxpayer, who's getting screwed and footing the bill for all of this. And it's a goddamn travesty. It's absolutely a travesty. And, there needs to be accountability here. Cabinet secretaries should be accountable to the American people. They should not be able to buy for themselves luxury jets with bedrooms in the middle of them that they can fly around in while little children are being held in detention camps and being fed basically garbage. Little children who thought they were going to Disney World and instead ended up at for all intents and purposes, a concentration camp for little Latino children. What are we doing in this country? What's happening when children are being fed a dirty nail like this man's client here? And the Secretary of Homeland Security is riding around in a jet with a bed in it. As I said, the person who's getting screwed in all of this, it's not a particular cabinet secretary. It's you, the American people. You're the one getting screwed in all of this. My thanks to Steve Schmidt on this Friday. We're going to try to do these collaborations more often. I don't say it enough. Make sure you are supporting independent media. You can get programs like Holy Schmidt, it's Friday, right here on the Jim Acosta Show. But you have to support us to keep this thing going. Supporting independent media means that we can do this show each and every day to keep bringing you the news in an unvarnished way, like you're not going to get it anywhere else. So make sure you subscribe, you like, you share. All of those things matter. It supports the work that we do, and it makes sure that we can keep doing it for you, our viewers. And we thank you so much for those of you who are supporting us day in and day out, week in and week out. We are so appreciative for all that you do. Thank you so much. But in the meantime, I'll see you soon. Still reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta. Have a great weekend.